The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976, wasn't just a science fiction film about an alien stranded on our planet. It was David Bowie's acting debut that nearly killed him with cocaine addiction.
See, I know what it is. I'm very drunk in this.
The director shot explicit scenes that got the film banned in multiple countries. The studio destroyed the original ending, and Nicholas Roeg's vision traumatized test audiences. These are 16 facts about the strangest alien film ever made. David Bowie was cast because he already looked alien. Director Nicholas Roeg wanted an otherworldly presence for Thomas Jerome Newton and found it in David Bowie. Roeg saw Bowie perform in 1975 during his cocaine-fueled Thin White Duke period. Bowie weighed barely 100 pounds, had orange hair, mismatched eyes from a teenage injury, and moved with unnatural grace. Roeg realized Bowie required almost no makeup or prosthetics to appear extraterrestrial. His emaciated frame, pale skin, and unsettling stare were perfect. Bowie had never acted professionally, but Roeg didn't care. He wanted presence, not technique. Bowie accepted immediately, seeing Newton as an extension of his alien stage personas. The role required minimal performance because Bowie genuinely seemed not quite human. Bowie was consuming multiple grams of cocaine. Daily during filming, David Bowie's cocaine addiction reached catastrophic levels during The Man Who Fell to Earth production. He consumed between 3 and 7 grams daily, according to later interviews.
I had a couple of drinks, which I never do.
Bowie barely slept, rarely ate, and existed in a paranoid fugue state throughout filming. His skeletal appearance wasn't makeup. It was malnutrition and drug abuse. Bowie later called this period the darkest point of his life. He remembered almost nothing about making the film. In interviews decades later, Bowie admitted he watched The Man Who Fell to Earth like a stranger's performance because he had no memory of filming it. The cocaine psychosis made him genuinely unstable and disconnected from reality. Nicholas Roeg recognized this and exploited it. Newton's alienation wasn't acted, it was Bowie's real disassociation captured on film. The performance works because Bowie was legitimately losing his mind. The film contains full frontal nudity and explicit sex that got it banned. The Man Who Fell to Earth features graphic sexual content that shocked 1970s audiences. Multiple scenes show full frontal male and female nudity. The sex scenes between Newton and Mary Lou are explicit and disturbing rather than erotic. Nicholas Roeg filmed them documentary style without romanticizing. The content got the film banned outright in Ireland and heavily censored across Europe. Several American states refused exhibition without cuts. The MPAA initially refused to rate it, forcing distributor Cinematography to release it unrated. Many theaters wouldn't book unrated films. The explicit content wasn't gratuitous. Roeg used sexuality to show Newton's alienation from human intimacy, but censors didn't care about artistic intent. The nudity limited theatrical distribution severely. Nicholas Roeg shot the film non-chronologically and refused to explain the plot. Nicholas Roeg filmed The Man Who Fell to Earth completely out of sequence and provided minimal explanation to his cast. Actors frequently didn't know where scenes fit in the narrative. Roeg believed confusion would create authentic disorientation. David Bowie particularly struggled with this approach. He'd ask Roeg what Newton was thinking or feeling in a scene. Roeg would respond with cryptic non-answers or silence. Candy Clark, who played Mary Lou, described Roeg's directing style as deliberately obscure. Roeg wanted actors lost and uncertain because their characters were lost and uncertain. The technique created genuine performances, but frustrated everyone. Roeg also edited the film non-linearly, jumping between time frames without explanation. The studio cut 20 minutes and changed the ending before American release. Nicholas Roeg delivered a cut running 140 minutes. Distributor Cinema 5 watched it and panicked. They found it too slow, too confusing, and too weird for American audiences. Without Roeg's permission, They cut approximately 20 minutes. Crucial character development and explanatory scenes vanished. The cuts made the narrative even more confusing, achieving the opposite of their intention. Most devastatingly, the studio altered the ending. Rogue's version showed Newton permanently trapped on Earth, alone and alcoholic, his alien nature revealed but meaningless. Cinema 5 added a more ambiguous conclusion, suggesting possible hope. Rogue was furious but had no contractual final cut rights. The American version represented mutilated vision. European releases used longer cuts closer to Rogue's intent. The director's true version wasn't widely seen in America until Criterion restoration decades later. Rip Torn and David Bowie despised each other. Throughout production, Rip Torn played Nathan Bryce, the scientist who befriends, then betrays Newton. Torn and Bowie developed immediate mutual dislike that intensified throughout filming. Torn found Bowie pretentious and chemically unreliable. Bowie considered Torn aggressive and unprofessional. Their antagonism shows in their scenes together. The tension is genuine. Nicholas Roeg encouraged their conflict, believing it enhanced their characters' relationship. During one scene, Torn and Bowie nearly fought physically. Crew members separated them. Torn later said, working with Bowie was like acting opposite a ghost. Nothing there. Bowie responded that Torn was threatened by anyone actually interesting. Their mutual contempt added authenticity to Bryce's betrayal of Newton. The dislike was so intense they never worked together again. Neither spoke positively about the other in subsequent interviews. The film's fragmented editing was influenced by Roeg's experience. Editing, performance, Nicholas Roeg had previously co-directed and edited Performance starring Mick Jagger. That film's experimental editing techniques, jump cuts, fragmented timelines, disorienting juxtapositions, carried over to The Man Who Fell to Earth. Roeg believed conventional linear storytelling was boring and false. Reality doesn't unfold chronologically in human consciousness. Memory, perception, and time interweave chaotically. Roeg wanted cinema to reflect this complexity. His editing deliberately confuses spatial and temporal relationships. Scenes from different time periods cut together without transitions. Past and present blur. Cause and effect become unclear. This approach, influenced by European art cinema, alienated mainstream audiences expecting Hollywood storytelling. Critics were divided. Some called it brilliant. Others deemed it incoherent. If you're enjoying these strange production stories from classic science fiction cinema, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our next deep dive. We've got more bizarre filmmaking tales coming soon. Now back to Newton's descent into madness. Candy Clark was nominated for Academy Award in Virtually Invisible category. Candy Clark received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for playing Mary Lou. This shocked everyone, including Clark herself. The nomination was bizarre because Mary Lou is hardly a supporting character. She's the female lead. Clark appeared in more scenes than anyone except Bowie. Her nomination in the wrong category reflected Academy confusion about the film itself. They didn't know how to classify anything about it. Clark didn't win. Beatrice Straight won for Network. But the nomination gave The Man Who Fell to Earth unexpected prestige. It represented the film's only Oscar recognition. The nomination helped convince art house theaters to book it despite the controversial content. Clark's performance is genuinely excellent, capturing Mary Lou's desperate need for connection. The miscategorized nomination was accidental validation for Roeg's unconventional film. The alien makeup took 5 hours to apply, and Bowie wore it. Only twice. The alien makeup showing Newton's true form required 5 hours of prosthetic application. Special effects, artist John Chambers, who'd created Planet of the Apes makeups, designed Newton's alien appearance. The prosthetics covered Bowie's entire head and torso. Bowie endured the lengthy process only twice during production. He found it claustrophobic and triggering given his mental state. The makeup appears in just 2 brief scenes showing Newton's real appearance. Nicholas Roeg intentionally minimized the alien reveal, believing less was more. He wanted Newton's humanity emphasized over his alienness. The extensive makeup work for minimal screen time exemplified Roeg's perfectionism. Chambers created something remarkable that barely appears. The film bombed commercially, but influenced. Countless later. Science fiction films. The Man Who Fell to Earth earned only $1.1 million in American theatrical release against its $1.5 million budget. Distributors lost money. The film disappeared quickly from theaters. However, its influence on science fiction cinema proved immense. Blade Runner, Under the Skin, Ex Machina, and countless other films exploring alienation and identity owe debts to Roeg's approach. The fragmented editing influenced music videos and experimental cinema. David Lynch cited it as inspiration. Jonathan Glazer called it essential viewing. The film's commercial failure became irrelevant as its artistic reputation grew. Revival screenings attracted devoted audiences. Critics reevaluated it as a masterpiece. By the 1990s, The Man Who Fell to Earth was recognized as one of science fiction's greatest achievements. Box office means nothing compared to lasting cultural impact. Buck Henry rewrote the script, but took no credit. Screenwriter Paul Meyersburg adapted Walter Tevis's novel, but his script required extensive revision. Nicholas Roeg hired playwright and screenwriter Buck Henry for uncredited rewrites. Henry had written The Graduate and was Hollywood's most respected script doctor. He restructured the narrative, added scenes, and tightened dialogue. Henry's contributions were substantial, but he refused screen credit. He considered himself a collaborator rather than co-writer. Industry insiders knew about Henry's involvement, but general audiences didn't. Meyersburg received sole writing credit despite Henry's extensive work. This kind of uncredited collaboration was common in 70s Hollywood. Many successful films involved invisible contributors. Henry's professionalism and lack of ego benefited the film. The film's cinematography required special lenses, imported from Europe. Cinematographer Anthony Richmond used specialized anamorphic lenses manufactured in Europe specifically for The Man Who Fell to Earth. Standard Hollywood lenses couldn't achieve the visual style Nicholas Roeg wanted. Richmond imported rare anamorphic primes that created distinctive shallow depth of field and optical distortions. These lenses made familiar environments appear alien and disorienting. New Mexico landscapes looked genuinely extraterrestrial through Richmond's photography. The unusual optics contributed to the film's unsettling aesthetic. Richmond also pushed film stock to create unusual color palettes: sickly yellows, cold blues, unnatural greens. The photography makes Earth itself seem hostile and strange. Richmond's techniques influenced subsequent science fiction cinematography. David Bowie refused to watch the film for decades after its release. David Bowie avoided watching The Man Who Fell to Earth for approximately 30 years after its release. He attended the premiere, but walked out halfway through. The experience of seeing himself during his cocaine psychosis was traumatic. Bowie later described watching as seeing a ghost of someone I used to be. He couldn't separate Newton from his own addiction and mental breakdown. Interviewers repeatedly asked about the film. Bowie deflected or gave vague responses. Only after achieving sobriety and perspective did Bowie finally revisit it in the 2000s. He admitted it was better than he remembered and praised Nicholas Roeg's vision, but he never enjoyed watching it. The performance remained too connected to his darkest period. Bowie's discomfort with the film is understandable. It documents genuine human deterioration. The film's soundtrack features music that doesn't appear in the movie. The official soundtrack album released in 1976 contains music largely absent from the actual film. Nicholas Roeg used existing recordings by John Phillips, Artie Shaw, and others for his soundtrack. These appear in the movie. However, The soundtrack album features original compositions by John Phillips and Stomu Yamashita created after filming. Rogue liked this music, but chose not to include it in his final cut. The soundtrack album essentially presents an alternate score for a different version of the film. This confused purchasers expecting music from the movie they'd seen. The disconnect between soundtrack and film became notorious. It represented the production's general chaos and lack of commercial planning. Collectors prize the soundtrack despite its irrelevance to the actual film. It's an artifact of roads not taken. Alternate ending. Nicholas Roeg's original ending ran several minutes longer and was significantly bleaker. The extended version showed Newton years after his capture, completely alcoholic and abandoned. He records his alien transmission knowing nobody from his planet will hear it. Mary Lou visits him one final time. She's aged badly while Newton appears unchanged. They share a drink. She asks if he's really an alien. Newton shows her his true form. Mary Lou screams and flees in horror. Newton sits alone listening to his own music, completely isolated. The ending emphasized that revelation changes nothing. Newton remains trapped, and humanity remains indifferent. Cinema 5 cut this extended conclusion, finding it too depressing and uncommercial. The Man Who Fell to Earth could have been a conventional alien visitor story, with clear explanations and a hopeful ending. Instead, Nicholas Roeg created a fragmentary nightmare about isolation and addiction, starring a man genuinely losing himself. The studio mutilated it. Bowie couldn't watch it, and the real ending showed no escape. Some films document actual human collapse.